evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Vincent Ngasa once more on Ponder. Today we are going to talk about something entirely different from what we've been talking about before. We are not going to talk about the quotes today. I would like to dedicate this video to all the ladies in the world, all women in the world. We are so happy for you. We are so proud of you. And then even though this video comes a day after the celebration of the International Day of Women, I still think it is proper, it is in place to let this word go out. Now, today I would like to be talking about the importance of women. The importance of women. And I'll be talking about the importance of women taking using the scriptures as a background, as my basis, as my foundation. I'm actually talking about something which I've spoken about before to some friends of mine, and I gave it before in the seminar. I just want to take a short piece of it and let the world know about it. Now, I would like to begin talking about Genesis 2 verses 23. I'm a Christian, so everything I'm going to talk about today will come from the scriptures. Genesis 2 verse 23. And if we read from verse 21 to 22, we'll understand that during the creation of during the creation of the female, God took a rib from Adam's side, and then there's Genesis 2 verse 21 and 22, and then fashioned it into a female, and then presented her to the male. Now, the first thing I'd like us to understand is the aspect of the rib, what God used to fashion the female, the rib. And after that, verse 23 tells us that after Adam had woken up from his sleep and saw his wife, he said, "This is bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh, and I shall call her woman because she was taken out of man." That is Genesis 2 verses 23. Now, the second thing I would like us to take note of here is the word bone. Now, let's go back to rib. Looking at the rib, what is the anatomical or physiological function of the rib in the human body? Now, if you look at the structure of the rib is such that it runs, I don't know whether I could say it runs until posteriorly or dorsoventrally. But whatever be the case, it goes from back to front. Not directly back, it circles around the side before going to the back. And now we should take note that the rib, or the collection of ribs we have, the collection of the 12 pairs of ribs, forms some sort of a cage. And that's why it's also called, anatomically or medically speaking, the thoracic cage. The rib cage or the thoracic cage. They form some sort of a cage, and this cage protects some of the most vital organs in the human body. It protects the heart, it protects the lungs, it protects the trachea, the esophagus. These are some of the most vital organs. The heart, I don't need to explain why the heart is very important. The lungs, you don't need to explain why the lungs are very important. And it protects the throat too. That's feeding. Feeding is very important. I believe everybody likes food. So it is very, very important. This is one of the major functions of the rib cage. The protection of some of the most important, if not the most important organs in the human body. And now, how can we relate this to the importance of a woman? Now, it tells us that a woman's function, amongst other things, is to protect. A woman is there to protect. She has to protect her man. Of course, it is natural. Looking at the build-up, the physical build-up of a male and a female, we understand that that would be a male's primary function, to protect his wife and protect the family and all that. But then, to some extent, there are certain things, those things which are very vital to a man, these things the woman protects. And that is why there's a saying that says that behind every great man, there's a great woman. Now, when it comes to organization of businesses and stuff like this, these are things that are very important to the man. These are things that are at the core of his existence. Now, a man will always go back to his wife to seek advice on how to take the next step, what next to do, especially when it comes to business advice and things like that. So if if he doesn't have a good wife who can assist him in these things, then he will be really lacking. So this is one of the ways in which a woman can effectively carry out her protective function of her man. And also, a woman defends her man. If you have a presidential candidate, for example, or a political figure who is going for elections, most often than not, you'll find that the wife goes out there to campaign for the man. Now, she is a primary disciple of the man. She supports him in everything that he does. So she somewhat defends him, shields him, all the insults, everything that is going to the man. Sometimes you find a woman explaining away the faults of the guy. For example, if you notice the US election when President Donald Trump was about to be elected, if we remember clearly, the person who was there to calm down the temper of the people, to play the nice person role, was his daughter. His daughter did, and she carried out that role perfectly well. So you see the importance of a woman. And then the next thing I'd like us to take note of is the fact that the word bones of my bones, that is Genesis 2 verse 23. The word bone there, if we go back to the Hebrew version, the Hebrew word, because Genesis was written in Hebrew and Aramaic. If we go back to the Hebrew word, the word is etzem, and this word has other meanings. Of course, it means bone. It also means strength, and it also means support, amongst other things. So it tells you, and it also means, one meaning I also like to add, self. It also means self. The self, strength, support, amongst other things, bone inclusive. Now, what does this tell us? It tells us that a wife acts as strength and is the self of the man. And this can logically be explained when we go to Ephesians chapter 5, verses 28. And verses 28 tells us that a man must love his wife as his own body. For he who loves his wife loves himself. So if a man loves his wife, he therefore loves himself. And it makes sense because the word for bone there also means self. So if a man is loving his wife, he is loving himself. And if a man loves himself, well, Ephesians 5 verse 29 tells us, for no man does not love himself or does not love his own body, but he rather nourishes it and cherishes it, just as Christ loved the church. Every man cannot hate his own flesh. He would rather cherish it. So if he cherishes himself, if his wife is considered part of himself, therefore means that he has to love and cherish his wife, because his wife is as important as him or as himself. She is very, very important to him. And so it would thus make logical sense that Genesis 2, I think verse 24 rather, tells us that thus a man shall leave his father and his mother and cling to his wife. Of course, he has to cling to his wife. Sometimes that's why people make the expression, I found my other half, my better half. It's not as though a man's half was missing, but there's some level of completion when you have a man and his wife together. They can bring to fruition both of their purposes in life. And then another thing I'd like to mention about this is, if a man loves himself fully, in this case the self being the wife, then he cannot be ashamed of his nakedness. And if you look at Genesis 2 verse 25, it tells us that the man and his wife were both naked, but they were not ashamed. Of course, there's no man or there's no person who stands in front of the mirror and is ashamed of their nakedness. Generally speaking, anyways, you are not ashamed of your nakedness. So if your wife is your body, is part of you, then of course you will not be ashamed to be naked, be vulnerable before your wife. So, but then I hope you've gotten the main important things. The wife is there for strength, for support. She is like your own very self. And also, she protects and defends. These are very important things, very, very important functions of women. We can most at times identify these things in our mothers. It's very easy to see them in our mothers, but also you can't see them in our wives and our sisters and all the women who are part of our lives. So we really need to love and cherish women, for they deserve it. Thank you very much, and I would like to know your comments in the comment section of this video. Also, please spread the word, as it's a normal tradition. See you next time on Fonda.